And coming up this hour, we'll discuss the death of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, who was killed while speaking at an event at Utah Valley University. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. We'll also be joined by the Kinder Institute's Daniel Potter. He'll tell us about a surprising new poll in which Houstonians give their real thoughts on immigration.
And I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman. Plus, we'll also discuss how a local theater company, Theater Southwest, is collaborating with the Holocaust Museum of Houston.
And we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text at 713-440-8870 or email us, talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us on YouTube by going to hellohouston.org and clicking the big orange banner.
All that and more right here on Hello Houston after the news from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The gunman suspected of killing right-wing influencer Charlie Kirk at an outdoor rally in Utah yesterday is still at large. Investigators say they believe the shooter is a college-age man who blended in well at Utah Valley University. NPR's Kirk Sigler has more from the UVU campus in Orem.
At a news conference, authorities said they have surveillance video of the suspect moving through campus and onto the roof where he fired from, then running after the attack into a nearby neighborhood. FBI Special Agent in Charge Robert Bowles said investigators found a high-powered bolt-action rifle in a wooded area where the suspected gunman fled. Bowles said police do not know how far he may have run or whether he's still in Utah.
I can tell you that this was a targeted event. We don't believe that the community is at risk. However, we are exhausting every resource to find him.
Asked whether recent high turnover at the FBI was hindering the hunt for the suspect, Bowles says his Salt Lake City field office has the resources it needs. Kirk Sigler, NPR News, Orem, Utah.
Still expressing disbelief over Kirk's assassination, President Trump told members of the media today he planned to speak with Kirk's family this afternoon. He also says he will posthumously award the slain conservative influencer the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Kirk was among Trump's most prominent allies. Democratic political leaders are also condemning the shooting, saying political violence in any form should be denounced by all Americans. Today marks 24 years since the 9/11 terrorist attacks, and annual commemorations are underway. At Ground Zero, New York City, the Pentagon, and in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, the attack claimed nearly 3,000 lives. President Trump and other elected leaders have been taking part in 9/11 observances. In other news, inflation rose last month as consumers paid more for both groceries and gasoline. NPR's Scott Horsley has details.
Consumer prices in August were up 2.9% from a year ago. That's a sharper annual increase than the previous month. Prices rose 0.4% between July and August, fueled by rising costs for rent, groceries, and gasoline. Americans also paid more last month for clothing, airfares, and new and used cars. August was the month when President Trump imposed higher tariffs on many U.S. trading partners, which may have contributed to higher prices for imported goods like coffee. A federal appeals court has ruled most of those import taxes are illegal, but they remain in effect pending a review by the U.S. Supreme Court. The High Court said this week it would hear arguments in the tariff case in early November. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
You're listening to NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. 2 men are dead after a car crash near the Galleria. HPD Assistant Chief Adrian Rodriguez says the car might be the same one officers attempted to pull over a few minutes earlier.
The officers didn't even get a chance to pursue that vehicle because as soon as they turned on that vehicle that was further west from this location, they lost sight of that vehicle. A few minutes later, I'm not sure the time, 5-10 minutes, whatever that time frame may be, a call dropped for a major accident at this location.
Rodriguez says an officer wanted to pull the vehicle over for running a red light this morning around 5:45 when it sped off. As hundreds of Houston city workers wait for delayed pension payments, the chairwoman of the pension board faced questions from the Houston City Council Wednesday. They asked why the city's independent pension system has taken so long to process paperwork for the approximately 1,000 workers who accepted early retirement incentives in the spring. News 88.7's Dominic Anthony Walsh reports.
Pension Board Chairman Sherry Mose says the answer lies with the retirees themselves. Up to 349 still have not been paid, and she told the City Council that a lot of them did not submit the proper paperwork in a timely manner. She also says the pension system typically processes 39 retirements per month. When we asked whether everyone who completed their paperwork properly was paid within the promised 90 days, she couldn't answer.
I don't have the particulars on that, so I would just say we're just paying them as we can.
Up to a third of those who accepted the retirement buyouts should be paid by the end of the month, according to Mose. I'm Dominic Anthony Walsh, News 88.7.
Dozens of people have been displaced from their homes after a massive fire broke out at an apartment complex in North Houston late yesterday. This happened just after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Residents had just a few short minutes to escape. Investigators are looking into the blaze, believe the fire started in a back building, but the cause is still under investigation. No lives were lost. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Subaru. The 2025 Subaru Outback features symmetrical all-wheel drive, plus standard safety features like EyeSight driver assist technology. Learn more at Subaru.com/Outback.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Welcome to Hello Houston. Today is Thursday, 9/11.
Yep, already YouTube folks are getting going.
Our YouTube community is joining us, and we want to thank you if you're joining us on 88.7 or through our YouTube channel. You can also catch past episodes of Hello Houston on YouTube, so be sure to like and subscribe and click the bell.
Being that it's 9/11, you would have thought that the leading story on all the news today would have been the remembrance of what happened 25 years ago. Amazing. Yeah. But as we know from current news that the story, there's another story that is capturing the nation's attention, and a lot of discussion is happening, and we'll be talking about that here today as well. It was the shooting and death caught on video in front of students at a university of Charlie Kirk, a right-wing blogger, influencer, activist, and quite a shocking turn of events as it unfolded yesterday. We'll be talking about that in just a little bit.
It was 24 years ago. I don't.
24. Sorry.
You, yeah, no. We're going to hear from people who are going to correct you if I don't.
Yes, 24 years ago, 9/11 was happening.
What a day. And it was, I'll never forget that day. It was so beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful clear skies because there was a big hurricane. Hurricane Aaron was moving between New York City and the Bahamas. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it basically sucked all the moisture into the Atlantic and left the eastern seaboard with crystal clear skies. It was cool. It was comfortable, just like today. And I have talked to more than one pilot who said, if it wasn't for, it probably would have happened at some point, but the weather certainly played a role because of what had to happen as far as getting those planes up and directing them where they went. So and no one has ever really analyzed that, but I blogged about it at one point, but you can see it was clear.
It's so interesting also for younger generations that grew up in a post-9/11 world where high security at airports, where this is a moment that, globally we take time to remember what happened within this country. And so, again, we are thanking you for joining us today on Hello Houston. There is a lot of conversation. There is a lot of news. And we hope you join us in this conversation at 713-440-8870. Ernie, what do we have coming up today?
We are going to be talking about immigration. We're going to be talking about the environment. We're going to be talking about Theater Southwest and a unique joining that they have together with the Holocaust Museum. But also, it's Thursday, current obsessions. So depending on the weightiness and heaviness of the rest of the show. And if we
Sure.
have time at the end, we would love to share your current obsessions. Those are the things, movies, TV shows, things that are occupying your brain more than they should and keeping you very engaged. So start sending them in to us. talk@hellohouston.org. You can also text them to us at
713-440-8870.
It's one of those days. I'm very caught up in the news of the day, so
I
I'm
think
a little
so many people
scattered.
are, right? I think right now, as a country, we are looking at the situation, and we're going to get right into these headlines. Conservative activist Charlie Kirk died yesterday after being shot while speaking on stage at an event at Utah Valley University. The 31-year-old hosted a popular podcast, was a staunch ally of President Trump, and as a teenager in 2012, founded Turning Point USA, a conservative youth organization now active at over 3,500 college campuses. The assassination was the latest in a recent wave of political violence and was condemned by lawmakers from both parties. An initial suspect in the shooting was released from custody last night after being interrogated by law enforcement. That's according to FBI Director Kash Patel. Now is the time to chime in. What are your thoughts on the rise of political violence within this country? Call us or text 713-440-8870. Tributes have been paid from across the political spectrum, starting with President Donald Trump, who wrote on social media, "No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie." President Trump posted, and he also ordered flags to be flown at half-mast through Sunday. Former President Joe Biden called for an end to political violence after the fatal shooting of Kirk. "There is no place in our country for this kind of violence. It must end now," President Biden said in a post on X. "Jill and I are praying for Charlie Kirk's family and loved ones." Also, former President Barack Obama also weighed in on social media, saying, "We don't yet know what motivated the person who shot and killed Charlie Kirk, but this kind of despicable violence has no place in our democracy." Michelle and I will be praying for Charlie's family tonight, especially his wife Erica and their 2 young children. That was President Obama who wrote on X. Governor Greg Abbott released a statement on the shooting death of right-wing conservative activist Charlie Kirk yesterday as well, calling it a senseless act of violence. Again, now is the time to join us on Hello Houston. What are your thoughts on the rise of political violence in America? You can call or text 713-440-8870.
And as we continue this conversation, I think we can all agree there is no place for this kind of violence in our country. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't happen, regardless of what side of the political aisle you are on. It is wrong. It is reprehensible. And we all have to understand that as this conversation goes. You can already see political lines drawing around this, and you run the risk of forgetting that a human being was murdered, a father, a husband, and that family no longer has him as part of it, regardless of if you agree with or disagree with his political beliefs. This isn't the way we handle things, or shouldn't be the way we handle things in this country.
Even if you disagree with him, he was bringing the conversation and willing to debate those who disagreed with him. And some people aren't willing to do that are out there on the very far right or the very far left. They want to stay in their comfort zone and don't want to discuss anything but what they want to discuss, where as Charlie Kirk was willing to take on anyone. Right. And so I admire that about him. And as Ernie says, it's horribly ironic in so many ways.
And I think we have to be very careful, right, as we are news consumers, when we are opening the internet, things are very heated. And so I implore everybody to take a second and, before we're commenting, because right now when we look at our country, it's a time where we need to find alignment. This, like Ernie was saying, this is extremely tragic. He was a 31-year-old man. He had 2 young daughters and a wife. He was speaking about his political views on a university campus, shortly after, just a few hours later, there was a shooting that happened in Colorado where 4 students and people were injured. This type of gun violence in America has to be addressed.
Yeah. To just wrap up something that Frank was saying, too, for those of you who aren't familiar with Charlie Kirk, what made him different and stand out was his approach was debate. Whether you agreed with the style in which he did it can be up to discussion, but the fact was he would, as Frank said, take on anyone. That made him stand out from pundits who simply would come on and pontificate their beliefs. He would engage, and he invited people with other points of view to talk with him. He talked with Gavin Newsom. He talked with other folks and had these debates. It made him stand out in a landscape where all too often all you hear is just a talking head talking.
Yep.
So that was an interesting point. We are inviting you to join the conversation. 713-440-8870. Alex from Richmond is on the line. Before we get to Alex, I will remind everyone that we always have respectful conversations here on the show, and also, though, are open to your thoughts and opinions. So, Alex, take us away.
Hiya. Yeah, I wanted to first acknowledge that you guys are looking for respectful opinions. I myself hate the idea that we are living in a world of this kind of normalized violence. It's something I feel very strongly about. But I also, myself, last night had very complicated feelings and reactions to this because, as you guys were kind of discussing, Charlie Kirk was a very controversial figure. He was someone who, I mean, I hate this about myself, but I'm terminally online enough to know this about him. His whole bread and butter was essentially mocking people. He would cut up his content and, spend his time defending various forms of political violence in themselves. And I'm wrestling with that feeling that, no, this was not a good man by any stretch of the imagination, but I am opposed to actually what happened. And I guess I wanted to also kind of put that out there, that maybe it's okay that we're sort of wrestling with this.
Alex,
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
I think that is absolutely right. And I think it's also one of those things where on social media, if you were somebody who, followed him and agreed with him, you will see a lot more of his content. There are a lot of people who didn't know who he was, and now they're seeing a lot more of his content out there. And so it's one of those things where I think as a country, we have to be respectful. These types of things cannot continue to happen.
I don't know if you folks have watched Tallarico talking about this, which I thought he took a very interesting stance, and it kind of falls in line with what Alex is talking about in regards to we have to be able to separate the human being from the rhetoric.
Yeah.
And in what Tallarico was saying is that from his faith system and belief system, he must love all people regardless of their opinions on things. You can have a political disagreement with someone. You can have different points of view on a topic or a subject, but to senselessly murder somebody, you can't find justification in that, but you can find justification in arguing against maybe someone's stance, belief system.
It's not a door that we want to open as a nation, but I'm afraid it's been opened. I mean, President Trump, a person died at the rally where an assassination attempt was made on Trump. And when we all thought this has to stop then, and clearly a year later, something like this happens.
713-440-8870. Nani from Clear Lake is on the line. Nani, I hope I'm saying your name right.
Yeah, you are. You nailed it.
Okay, thank you. What's on your mind today?
Okay. I do not advocate for violence in any form, whether it's fist fighting or murder. But I'm getting a little frustrated with everybody saying that he's a political pundit, that he got killed because he had certain political views. But most of his speech and on YouTube is hate speech. So now being racist is political? Or some of the other things he said, empathy, that's personal. That has nothing to do with politics and policy. So what it is. It's horrible. Like, again, I don't advocate for any kind of violence. But stop saying that it was a political murder. One, we don't know why he was killed. And two, it wasn't a political presence. He was, I don't know what the word is for somebody who goes around spewing hate to get people riled up and lied. But he wasn't political.
Nani, thank you very much for your call, 713-440-8870. She also brings up a point that we do need to make sure that we point out is that we do not know yet the motive for the shooting. You can speculate. You know that he was politically engaged. You know that he was speaking at a university. You know that we know that he was the sole target of why the shooter was there. So you can assume it had something to do with a political rhetoric, but we don't know that yet. And we'll learn more.
And Nani's right in that he was not an elected official. So this, but what we do know is that he was at a university. This was a young man at a university speaking his political views, and he was shot. And so that is one of the things that we have to continue to hold space for. And again, I think as a country, we are dealing with some very complex, holding space for a lot of feelings. And it's hard because everything has become so political. So much of our culture today has become political. So it is trying to not dehumanize people and look at this as a tragedy. Again, this was a man who had children. Whether you agree with him or not, I don't believe anybody should be murdered for their political views. I also don't think that children should be murdered at their desks. I think this is the third politically motivated shooting since June. We understand that the Minnesota House Democratic Farmer Labor Caucus leader, Melissa Hartman, was killed alongside her husband. Mm-hmm. That same night, Democratic Senator John Hoffman and his wife were also shot in their home. Shortly after the tragedy that there's video of seeing the assassination of Charlie Kirk. There was a shooting in Colorado. I think now is the time to come together as a country and really look at our policy.
Yeah, those do seem more politically motivated.
Correct, because they were elected officials.
I certainly get what Nani is saying in that you could say, well, his social views were really what maybe offended someone, or his views of the way he saw how other people that disagreed with him were. So it wasn't necessarily always political, but like you say, everything seems to have become political.
Yeah.
So if you want to talk about
very hard nowadays.
Well, if you want to talk about LGBTQ, that becomes political.
That
becomes political, but it's really more about how you treat people in a society.
Women's health care becomes political.
And why is that political? It's about women's health care.
My body becomes political.
Right.
I
think
think
it's hard to separate all of that.
I think Nani also brings up a good point that I hope we will explore in the future when we've had some time from this. But to look at the changing rhetoric when it comes to political speech, as you were both just talking about, in today's day and age in our country, how we address issues, how we talk about them, how they have vilified certain people, certain groups, how different this is from maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or maybe how similar it is to 60 or 70 years ago. I'd be very curious in seeing the evolution of how we express political concern and challenges and how that has changed over time, and I'm sure we will get to that.
Again,
713-440-8870.
We do have a call from Scott from the Galleria. Scott, welcome to Hello Houston. What are your thoughts or comments?
Thank you. I think one of the things that, just as a follow-on from what Nani said and what Frank's been saying, but it's a little bit different take, and that is we talk about gun violence, we talk about political violence, and those are just adjectives. They're adjectives for violence. Mm-hmm. We need to recognize that violence is a part of the American culture, that violence is actually a characteristic of us as Americans. And it doesn't matter whether it's John Wilkes Booth or Sirhan Sirhan or whoever it is. This is not something that's just happened recently, that violence is part of the American culture. And so what can we do, not in our media, not in a general sense, but on a specific person-to-person basis to deal with this change of culture that we need to affect in America? And one of the things I'd like to turn people to is a movement by Tim Shriver called Unite that talks about the way that we talk to other people. And he talks about a spectrum of speech that ranges from between contempt to dignity. And he actually has an index for our own speech, our personal speech, where we can rate ourselves on where we fall on that spectrum. That's what
All right, thank you.
Yeah, that's interesting. I had not heard of that, and I think we'll definitely look into that and see what we can do. It seems like the idea of what we're talking about is how to better understand communicating with each other and our own role we play in it.
And to what Scott was saying, he's right. Political violence, gun violence, social violence, religious violence, that they are, at the end of the day, ways to try to understand violence.
And that's the thing, and to that point, I read this article this morning, goodfaithmedia.org, by Sean Palmer, who basically was talking about how America, the article is called Born in Violence, and that connection of violence within America. So that's, again, we appreciate your calls. You can keep those coming, 713-440-8870.
Let's go over to Danny from the Northeast. Danny, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, so I didn't know him super well. What I have come across when I did decide to look him up was very inflammatory statements, most of which I do not agree with. I saw some things that were very inflammatory, some very racist statements that he was making. I guess that's kind of how he made his political statement. But the irony I found, the one statement that I saw where he defended guns, not just defending guns, because I think people have the right to carry guns, but where he specifically defended the idea that people are just going to die, and that's okay. And I thought that was a very ironic statement that he basically said, we're going to have deaths, and that's worth the price of all of us being able to keep guns. And like I said, I have a concealed handgun license, not an issue with guns, but I think the idea that the response to a shooting that some people are just going to die and being very cold, I think it's very ironic that now it seems that he is kind of in the situation himself. So that's my thoughts.
Danny, thank you for calling in and sharing that with us. He brings up a point that I wanted to go back to, something that Celeste and I were talking about earlier. As you go into social media, as you go into the world and look for videos to find things about maybe what he has said or how he presented himself, you are definitely going to come across videos from what happened yesterday. There are edited versions of it out there, but there are also videos that, like what we talked about yesterday with the stabbing in the subway, be careful, because there are videos actually of the impact and the damage that happened to his body, and you can see it, and it is very disturbing. So make sure you are being conscious of how you look for media.
And Ernie, to that point, not just the videos of the actual act and the violence that is happening, but we know how much social media plays into our fears and into our affirmations of what we believe. And so I think that what's also you're going to see is people are going to see two very different types of content when they do look up this Charlie Kirk. And that's going to be, if you felt one way about him, the algorithm is going to continue to show those things. And if you felt another way about him, your algorithm is going to continue to show. And at the end of the day, I think we have to remember these are people that are out there. Again, this was tragic. 713-440-8870. We invite you to the conversation. Richard is on the line from Bel Air. Richard, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hello. I've been really concerned about the fact that much of the coverage has been what I'd call sane washing of this guy. As has been mentioned before, much of his rhetoric is racist and anti-Semitic. And he might put it in reasonable terms, having discussion, but he blames the Jews for a lot of things. He says the Civil Rights Act was harmful to America. And even with the most liberal of television stations, they have not mentioned that once. In fact, they fired Matthew, I can't remember his last name offhand right now, for telling the truth of what the last person just said. He basically effectively brought it on himself in the sense of saying that people will die by guns and that's all right. And the sane washing and also the wall-to-wall coverage. When the legislators in Michigan were killed politically, there was maybe half an hour coverage, and that was it. But MSNBC has covered it full time all day yesterday and still today. I don't quite understand it. And y'all are covering it. It's bad that a person got killed, but a lot of people get killed, and they're not covered full time all day.
Richard, thank you for your point of view and for giving us a call at 713-440-8870.
And I just want to clarify, it was MSNBC analyst Matthew Dowd who was fired. And I also want to clarify, it wasn't Michigan, it was Minnesota where those elected officials were shot. Again, we thank all perspectives and for joining the conversation today on Hello Houston. There is a lot to discuss within this topic. Again, 713-440-8870. But moving along, we're going to coming up on Hello Houston. The Kinder Institute's Daniel Potter joins us to talk about a surprising new poll, which Houstonians give their real thoughts on immigration. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
With federal support gone, Houston Public Media needs a stronger foundation for the future. The Houston Public Media Resiliency Fund is our response to ensure this service remains strong, stable, and community-powered. Your gift today helps us stay on the air tomorrow and the day after that. Give now to the Resiliency Fund at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
Counterterrorism resources were shifting to prevention, but since President Trump took office, those efforts have been dismantled.
For a lot of folks in the counterterrorism field, this is a real crossroads moment of like, what is our strategy and where are we going?
I'm Mary Louise Kelly. We hear how counterterrorism has changed since 9/11 on the next All Things Considered from NPR News.
You can listen today starting at 3.
In a historically tough job market, restaurants still need help.
Right now you hear that people might be not taking vacations, they might not be going out and making those big purchases, but people still want to go out to eat.
I'm Kai Rizdal, Help Wanted, next time on Marketplace.
You can listen to Marketplace tonight at 6:30 on News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Live Nation, presenting Trans-Siberian Orchestra 2025 Winter Tour, The Ghosts of Christmas Eve, coming to Toyota Center on Friday, December 19th. Tickets at toyotacenter.com. Support comes from the Guide to Good Divorce Seminars presents Family Law for Families with Special Needs, created to help women navigate the divorce process. September 13th at St. Regis Hotel. Registration at guidetogooddivorce.com/radio.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
We know that a lot of our audience still has a lot to say about the Charlie Kirk situation and the assassination, and calls are still coming in. We will return to that topic at the top of the next hour and continue that conversation going, so feel free to continue to call in or hold your calls till noon, and we'll come back to you. But right now, a new survey at Rice University's Kinder Institute, drawing nearly 10,000 respondents from across Harris, Fort Bend, and Montgomery County, offers revealing insight into Houstonians' feelings on the Trump administration's immigration policies. The majority of Houston area residents believe that the U.S. immigration system is broken and favor expanding legal pathways over mass deportation. About 70% more say opportunities to become citizens is the answer, and 3 in 4 oppose deporting those brought here as children and who are now rooted in our community. To help us unpack these attitudes, what they mean for families, neighbors, and the Houston economy, we're joined by Dan Potter, Director of the Human Population Research Center at the Kinder Institute. Welcome back to the program, Dan.
It's great to be here.
And if you have comments, thoughts, concerns, give us a call, 713, or text us, 713-440-8870. I guess I would just start off with the very first thing. 80% of respondents believe that the immigration system is not working well. Take it away.
Yeah, so this is not necessarily a new data point, but it's definitely a continuation of what we've been hearing, where when folks are looking at our immigration system, the way that we're, getting people into this country from elsewhere for a while now, and again, it continues to today, people look at that system and say it is not working in terms of what we need it to be doing.
So
Can you tell us something about the respondents? Because 10,000 people is a lot of people. I mean, what's their male, female, white, black, brown, Asian, age groups? Who were these people you talked to?
All the above.
Really?
So this is a representative sample of Fort Bend, Harris, and Montgomery County. It was drawn using addresses, and so we're hearing from people from all different walks of life, all different political perspectives, all different ages, races, incomes, because from our perspective, we know that it is important if we want to try to elevate and amplify what residents think and feel and their opinions and attitudes and experiences for that matter. You got to talk to everybody. And so that's who's involved in this study.
And Daniel, how much does the fact that Houston and our area is so diverse, that we're such a diverse area, how much does that play, do you think, into the high percentage of the thought of that we need to work on this situation?
Yeah. And I think that was really at the root of many of the questions that we had, was that because Houston is an immigrant community, I mean, you're talking about a quarter of residents in Harris County were born outside of the U.S. A third of residents in Fort Bend County born in a country besides here. 1 in 6 residents in Montgomery County, again, an immigrant. We are not talking about an abstract concept. We're talking about and thinking about our neighbors, our community members, our friends, potentially our family members even. And so in that regard, we wanted to know where people stood on these factors, knowing that for so many of them, this is not about rhetoric. This is not, again, that sort of abstract thought. These are lived experiences that people are going through. And so for folks that are having those lived experiences, what do they think?
And they understand the nuance of immigration and what sweeping policy can look like in that effect, because like you said, that there are so many different aspects to how somebody arrived here, how they got their visa, or, that type of situation.
Exactly, yes.
Let me ask you, going back to the 80% believe the immigration system is not working well. New policies, new approaches to immigration, still feeling the same way? If so, what do they think are the alternatives?
So here's probably an important caveat for us to throw out there. So we asked these questions back in January and February of this year. And so these responses are largely reflective of a time period when a lot of what we have now seen come to fruition, we're really still in that sort of idea and talk phase. These are things that people, when we were talking through mass deportation and sort of those more aggressive enforcements that we've seen, those were still yet to be executed. And
can you revisit now, though, and how quickly can we find out reaction now that we've seen some of these policies in place?
And that is one of those beautiful things about the research that we're able to do with the Kinder Institute and with the panel that we have, is we're able to continue to talk with these folks on a regular interval. And so, in fact, we are going to be going back in the field next month with these exact questions again to try to understand where are we at as a community. So, we had certain ideas and we had certain opinions and perspectives at this early onset of the new federal administration. And so what does that look like now that we've seen some of these new policies put into action? Has it swayed people one way or the other? That is one of the core questions.
Is it, though, in some way making this study at this point in somewhat obsolete because of such a sea change that happened in the last couple months? Is it more important we look at this next one than what we glean from what people thought before?
So in order for us to kind of understand where we are, it's always going to be interesting and important to understand where we have been. And so from that perspective, because there is a reasonable anticipation that attitudes have changed, thoughts have changed, that people may have seen videos or had an experience with a neighbor or, again, with that family member that in concept, I may have liked an idea, I may have supported a certain notion, but I am not appreciative of how this is being, executed. Or conversely, I wasn't entirely comfortable with this, but now I'm seeing how this is rolling out and maybe I am a little bit more receptive to it. For us to understand changes, we have to establish that baseline first.
So you said out in the field. I mean, are you literally knocking on doors, or are you phoning people? Is it an online survey? I'm trying to get a sense of, because I was in television and we did rating surveys all the time.
Sure.
And we stopped at usually 800 people. That gave us a pretty good number. But it was mostly phone calls because we couldn't get a lot of people to answer the phone. And
no one answers their phone.
Yeah, and if they don't know who you are on a cell phone, they won't even respond. So I'm curious. I have your demo now. So how do you get to these people, and how How much do you trust their responses?
Yeah, so we, again, are starting out with addresses. And so we're not building this from emails. We're not building this from voter registries. We're building this from, do you live in the Houston area? Once we recruit you through a mailer, so we're talking about envelopes, postcards, reaching out to you with a physical recruitment document, we're inviting you to complete an online survey.
Okay.
So we're ultimately chasing you online to complete that. There's a variety of reasons for that. A lot of it has to do with we almost all have smartphones or some other type of internet access at this point. So the digital divide is increasingly shrinking. It additionally gives us the flexibility and benefit to be able to put surveys in Spanish, in Mandarin, and Vietnamese, other different languages that if I'm trying to do paper pencil becomes increasingly challenging. And so knowing how diverse and how widespread the Houston area is in its language skills and its nativity statuses, we want to try to make this survey as accessible as possible to as many people as possible. And so we do English and Spanish on all of our surveys. We offer other languages on some of our other more unique surveys that we do as well. But then the question of quality is a great one to be asking, because at the end of the day, if you do not have good data coming in, you do not have good results going out, right? Like bad in, bad out kind of a situation. And so we will build in different checks that we use with our data to make sure, are we hearing from a bot? If so, you're out, bot. Are we hearing?
Bye-bye.
But how do the bots feel about this?
The bots are not pro-survey right now. No, and unfortunately, we do see some of that happening from time to time. And so we remove that case out of there. We also look for potentially malicious responses, which could look responses that are sort of blatantly lying. So, do you identify as black, white, Hispanic, Asian, other? I identify as zebra. Cool for you if that's true, but for our purposes, we're going to look at that as a data quality checkpoint there. And then additionally, if it looks like somebody is just randomly answering or what's referred to as straight lining, we will oftentimes be removing responses there. At the end of the day, it does reduce the number of cases we have, but it increases the quality of those that we end up analyzing.
You're listening to Hello Houston. We're speaking with Dan Potter, the director of Houston Population Research Center at the Kinder Institute. If you have a question or comment for Dan, you can give us a call or send us a text, 713-440-8870. We did have an offline comment. Jacob from Montrose says, my father was an immigrant. However, I believe both of them would say they only believe in legal immigration like they were.
To go back to the survey itself, I think we all make assumptions. We think we know how people think. We think political party is defining it. We think this and that. Surprises you found when you actually looked at the data.
Yeah, because we sort of do know how the two political ends of the political spectrum feel about this topic. It's been reported widely, and you've got plenty of evidence to suggest where those exist. But what's important, especially for like the Houston area, most of us don't exist on the extremes. We are in the middle. And in that regard, it's important that we're hearing from that, because that really is where the vast majority of folks are in their political thinking. Even if you expand beyond Houston, right now, the largest political group is those who are identifying as moderate independents. And so that's the group we wanted to focus on. Where does that group exist when they're thinking about this challenge here? Thank you. Yes, I'm teasing us along, aren't I? So, they want to see those increased pathways to citizenship, that there's a recognition that this issue of undocumented immigrants, illegal immigration, is a problem. So how do you solve it? And for the vast majority of residents in the moderates and really up and down the spectrum, with the exception of sort of extremely conservative, the solution that they were offering up was we need to resolve that with increasing pathways to citizenship.
We have a call for you. This is from Emmanuel from Texas City. Welcome to Hello Houston, Emmanuel. What's your question or comment?
Hi, guys. My question is, everyone from the top, the president and all the politicians, even American citizens, always mention that they support legal immigration. And everyone says, yeah, we support that if they come in the right way. But no one ever says which way is the right way, because I believe that when we're born on this earth, we don't choose to be white, black, Asian, Spanish, American, Indian. So no one has that choice. So for those of us who are not Americans, who decide to come to the United States, we only come here for a better life. But the ones who do support it say that they want it the legal way, but they never say how. Which way is the legal way?
That's a decent question.
And in many ways, I think that points to the 80% that look at our immigration system and go, this just isn't working. Like there should be more of those ways where if you want to come in, we've got those avenues available for you. And I think some of that resentment and some of that sort of frustration with our immigration system is coming from the fact that when you have folks that are looking for those legal pathways, they're increasingly smaller. They're tightening up or potentially even going away in that regard. And so that's where you sort of have this challenge that emerges of what does that look like?
You know, Dan, we did get some YouTube comments and somebody mentioned Jocelyn Noongaray. Does that at all, when you look at immigration, Houstonians looking at immigration, and we had a very public national case that happened right here, and immigration was involved in it. Does that play at all in your reports and your data?
So when we were asking people about sort of the support for deportation of different types of undocumented immigrants, the only group that there was a majority support for deportation around were those that had, committed a crime. And so there does seem to be this level of agreement that if you are here and you do break the law, that one of those consequences is about sort of being removed from here. And, the case that's being brought up is obviously a very tragic and unfortunate one.
Extreme.
And there's no sort of silver lining to point to there. That's just tragedy personified. And so, I think we can look at that as sort of that reminder around the challenges that we are all facing. And the fact of the matter is a completely working immigration system, does it resolve that? I don't know the answer to that. And our data won't be able to speak to that per se. I think, again, it just sort of speaks to this idea that if we create a system that allows for people to come in, that we find ways of getting people into the fold, we remove these under the table deals, the sort of shadow economies that break out when you have undocumented individuals involved. It increases the safety for everyone.
Quickly jumping on the end of that question, which your dad, I think, can help us understand better, is who should be actively involved in all of this disciplinary action? It looks like they're not in favor of local law enforcement being involved.
Yeah, so that was one of our questions is would folks like to see the local law enforcement enforcing these federal policies? And 70% of residents said no, like the local law enforcement should not be assisting. And, what we've seen unfold since then is the opposite of that, where local law enforcement has been brought in and legislation being passed that is sort of encouraging that further.
So very quickly, who sees your data? Does it just come to Hello Houston? Who all gets to know about all of this?
Yeah, so it's public. It's available to anyone and out there. We're sending it around to different individuals and different entities that are involved with the immigration system, the immigration community, local officials, and other nonprofit organizations that help support individuals. This, at the end of the day, is not just about describing disaster, but identifying the solutions to it. And so we think that's a critical piece.
Dan Potter is the director of the Houston Population Research Center at the Kinder Institute. Dan, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Coming up, we'll discuss a play running at the Theater Southwest. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Next time on the Music Archive Showcase, hear Hour 1 about the music and philanthropy of singer-songwriter Harry Chapin.
Harry Chapin was one of the greatest storytellers of all time. He wanted to change the world. And he did.
I'm gonna be like you.
I remember thinking, that's such a cool line. The hair stood up on my arms.
Hour 1 of Harry Chapin's story next time on the Music Archive Showcase. Saturday evening at 7 on News 88.7.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV8, a night of mystery and intrigue with Father Brown at 7, followed by the Sister Boniface Mysteries at 8, and Death in Paradise at 9. Tonight on Houston Public Media TV8.
Support comes from GenPro, a Houston-based home generator service providing power to homes during unexpected outages, helping with connectivity and productivity. More information is available at genpro.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Oftentimes, when we talk about how incredible the Houston theater scene is, we think about the shows coming through the Broadway tours, but that isn't always the case. There are so many great community theaters offering top-notch shows with local talent. One of these is Theater Southwest, and joining us now is director John Patterson, who is opening Incident at Vichy for Theater Southwest, a script written by Arthur Miller, and is set in Nazi-occupied France. The show opens on September 12th and plays through September 27th. John, welcome to Hello Houston.
Great. Thanks for having me, guys. Good to be here.
And something I didn't mention in my intro that I think is very unique to this show is you're doing a collaboration with the Holocaust Museum.
Yes,
Talk to us about that.
Well, the play itself is extremely timely. Actually, just watching your last segment, it seems to tie in very nicely. But this is dealing with the first day of the racial profiling and roundups in occupied France. You have a number of men that find themselves in a room. They're not sure why they are there. And I could go on and on and on, but the tie-ins with the Holocaust were impossible not to see. Mm-hmm. So when I was tasked to direct this particular show, my immediate thought was, how can we make this even more relevant? How can we give our audience a place to go further? How can we enhance the production itself? And the Holocaust Museum was our first stop, and they were extremely gracious and took us on as a collaboration and a partner, and are now supporting us with education. They're coming and hosting a talk back for us. They're actually offering a free admission to the museum itself for every ticket that we sell at the theater. It's just a fantastic tie-in for the show.
You talk about relevancy, and outside of doing a collaboration with another organization, you as a director looking at this piece, knowing that the job is to deliver what the playwright has put down on the page, but how did you interpret it to make it more relevant? What did you do to address issues that you think are of concern of the community that's going to be coming to see it?
And as a director, would you believe I didn't have to do a single thing? Arthur
easy
Miller,
work today.
Extremely well.
Not really easy.
Some of it was easy. Arthur Miller wrote a piece that is so incredibly poignant in the 60s that he literally could have written it 5 minutes ago. Wow. The dialogue that is there is perfect. So my role as a director here was not to sermonize, not to moralize, not to do anything else other than to present the text exactly as it is written in the script, because it's there. All you have to do is, you don't even have to want to see it. It's just there.
Yeah. How do you work with the actors in today's environment to understand what the responsibility is of delivering this work?
A lot of them came in with some very definite ideas about what they wanted to present. And again, it wasn't so much a question of adding, it was more a question of making sure that we didn't go too far over the line. Mm-hmm. So we would take a scene and we would rehearse it, and we would start by, guys, this goes over the top of this as you can possibly go. Imagine yourself being in this room today. This is happening now. And then we found that, okay, there's too far.
Yeah.
And then we began dialing back from that till we got just up to the line, but not over the top.
But do you as a director have those? Because different directors work different ways, but I'm curious, do you have that moment where you all came together first and talked the topic through, understood among each other what you're feeling before you even opened the text?
We spent 3 days doing table work on this, just everyone around a table reading through the script and breaking down every last nuance, because Arthur Miller, as a playwright, picks a word. And it's a slow burn. It'll get you 3 days later. Why did he say, why did he use that word instead of this word? So we drove ourselves nuts dissecting the script, in some cases a word at a time.
Yeah.
Tell me about this cast. It seems rather large and rather male.
21 men, something like that?
21 men. You know, we considered trying to get a couple more in there, but we thought, no, leave some actors for other theaters.
Herding cats.
Okay, I didn't say that. You said that. I'm not going to back away from it. It has been really, it was gratifying as a director when you have an audition for a show this size at a smaller theater. You never know whether you're going to get the kind of turnout and the caliber of talent that you need to bring something like this off. And we were exceptionally blessed with the number of local talent that came out. In some cases, some of our stock actors who come out and make our plays sing. We had a whole host of new talent that came out, people that we have never directly worked with before. So it was one of those enviable positions where I could cast the show twice with the people who are here.
Oh, wow.
Do you think it's the show? Clearly the director would be attracted.
Certainly.
But do you think that people felt like they wanted to be a part of this? And if the answer is yes, is it because of what we're seeing in our own world right now?
There's no question that people came with the desire to tell this story. And Arthur Miller as a playwright is just a direct to act in any case, although this is not one of his better known shows. It's still an Arthur Miller, and his work sings. Outside of that, I think we have, as a theater, just moved to a brand new location. We were in a 27-year home prior to this move. So we have been doing a very large push to all of the acting community to say, hey, come out, check out the new Theater Southwest. We've got this great, well-proportioned space. You're going to love working here. You're going to love working with us and the way that we're trying to modernize the way that we do things.
Speaking of modernizing, I'm just curious, 21 Men, I a couple of years ago, saw a 12 Angry Men that became 12 Angry Jurors. They were going to mix it up, some women in the cast to diversify a little bit. Any thought of that with this production, or did you feel it needed to be this way?
We talked about it actually at great length, and I sat down with our artistic director, Mimi Holloway, and we finally landed on, yes, we could do that. And in fact, it would make it much easier to cast, and maybe even more approachable for a diverse audience. But we decided that there is a particular energy when you get a group of all one gender together in a room, and that's what Arthur Miller intended. That's what we wanted to bring forward. So it was a hard call to make, but in the end, the text won out.
Do you costume this and present it sort of the way it was originally done? Or I've seen these plays now on Broadway where it's all on a stage and it's dark, you know. You could do Arthur Miller that way.
Sure, you could. And it's like all the Shakespeare that we see now. I say, we're going to do Hamlet in a high school in Des Moines because that's where the author intended. Right. No, we actually built a hyper-realistic environment for this that is absolute. You walk in, and I hope the audience will be transported to 1942 France.
Wow.
It looks like a disused warehouse, the last place on earth that you would want to find yourself after being picked up off the street by police.
So the last place you want to find yourself, and there's no intermission. Is that right?
There is no intermission. It comes in just short of 90 minutes, so you might want to take a moment and visit the facilities before. There wasn't a place to put an intermission in.
Yeah. Interesting.
So at the end of the day, does one come away thinking, oh my God, we're in this really bad fix right now, or do they bring some hope to their life right now?
I like the way that he tells the story in that he himself does not moralize. He simply says, this is a thing that happened, and you can go home and make your own decisions about it. So there's no tie up with a ribbon. There is no happy ending because this was not a happy ending kind of story.
Right.
It's just a 90-minute snippet of time, and you have to decide for yourself how it comes out. We leave you with a bit of a cliffhanger to decide what happens in the next 2 minutes.
Hey, none of Tennessee Williams was a happy ending. So.
Hardly.
So we can deal with it.
Incident at Vichy opens on September 12th and plays through September 27th. Ernie, did you have one last question?
I did have one last question. I just was worried about the time. I wanted to ask, which we never have a problem with here, is dead air. But you're working with a lot of silence in this piece. How do you direct silence?
I make my actors earn it. Everyone has these big dramatic moments, and we try to make sure that those are respected. But if we respected all of those, this would be a much longer play than 90 minutes. So very simply, for every pause that you wish to take, you need to earn it.
There you go. And for every ticket purchased to Incident at Vichy, you receive one free admission to the Holocaust Museum of Houston. John is the director of the Incident at Vichy. John, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you all so much for your time. I had a great time today.
Thank you.
Coming up, we'll continue diving into today's top stories. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from Decamera, presenting Other Worlds Season Overture. Works by Ravel, Rachmaninoff, and Schubert, featuring pianist Enon Barnetan and violinist Tessa Lark. October 3rd at the Wortham Center. Tickets at Decamera.com.
Nice day today, lots of sunshine, and we'll get up to about 94. Currently, it's 88. Your NPR station, KUHF Houston, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, we'll continue discussing today's top stories, including the firing of an A&M professor after a video circulated online showing a student confronting the professor over LGBTQ-related content in the classroom. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. We'll also talk with Elena Bruess, a reporter for Capital and Maine, who will discuss the Trump administration easing pollution rules for coal plants and chemical facilities.
And I'm Celestia Sherman. We'll also dive into our latest pop culture obsessions for our regular Thursday feature, Current Obsessions.
And we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us on YouTube by going to HoustonPublicMedia.org and clicking the big orange banner.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The FBI has released 2 images of a person of interest in Charlie Kirk's assassination. They show someone wearing dark clothes, a dark ball cap, and sunglasses as he apparently was walking through a building. His long-sleeve shirt has a white emblem that appears to be a U.S. flag with a bird. The person of interest has been described as a college-age man. Kirk, a prominent conservative influencer and close ally of President Trump, was gunned down yesterday during an outdoor rally at Utah Valley University. The president continues to respond to the assassination of Kirk, saying he would award him the Presidential Medal of Freedom posthumously. NPR's Danielle Kurtzleben reports Trump made the remarks at a September 11th memorial ceremony at the Pentagon.
Trump opened his remarks with a short remembrance of Kirk and an announcement of the highest civilian honor a president can bestow.
I'm pleased to announce that I will soon be awarding Charlie Kirk posthumously the Presidential Medal of Freedom. The date of the ceremony will be announced, and I can only guarantee you one thing, that we will have a very big crowd. Very, very big.
Trump also called Kirk a giant and an inspiration to millions. Trump went on in his September 11th remembrance speech to tout his efforts to rename the Department of Defense the Department of War. Danielle Kurtzleben, NPR News, the White House.
It's now been 24 years since the September 11th terror attacks. Memorial services and remembrance events are happening across the U.S. This morning in Pennsylvania, bell rang out and names were read, marking the moment the hijacked United Airlines Flight 93 crashed into a field in Shanksville. Commemorations were also held at the Pentagon and at Ground Zero in New York City. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russia is testing the West by sending drones into Polish airspace and using subterfuge to evade responsibility. NPR's Joanna Kakissis reports Ukraine says this is not the first time Russia has used deception during military maneuvers.
Zelensky said he believes the Kremlin sent the drones into Polish airspace to rattle NATO member states in Europe. He said Moscow hopes allies will keep their air defense systems and missiles to protect themselves instead of sending some to Ukraine. Zelensky also said he saw eerie similarities between Russia's drone incursion on Polish airspace and its 2014 invasion of Crimea in southern Ukraine. He explains that back in 2014, Moscow sowed confusion in Crimea by secretly deploying Russian soldiers in unmarked green uniforms, while today denying the drones that invaded Polish airspace were Russian-made. Joanna Kakissis, NPR News, Kyiv.
This is NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. Governor Abbott has ordered flags to fly at half-staff at all state-owned buildings in honor of conservative commentator Charlie Kirk. Abbott was one of many political leaders offering condolences after Kirk's assassination yesterday in Utah. Kirk's speaking tour included a stop at Texas A&M in April.
When I started, it seemed like a daunting generational project. And I just give all glory to God, and I'm just so humbled that I get to live to see the fruit of the last 13 years of my relentless traveling around the country and speaking to very small crowds.
The Texas A&M chapter of Turning Point USA will hold a prayer vigil for Kirk tonight at 9 o'clock. Harris County commissioners are expected to vote next week on the county's new budget. A contentious relationship between Commissioners Court worsened on Tuesday after Commissioners Court declined to fund several child care and health programs. News 88.7's Sarah Grunow reports.
A disagreement on whether to provide funding for those programs ended with Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo walking out in the middle of discussions about the county budget. Commissioners are working to bridge a $270 million budget deficit. Just again, for the record, colleagues, I don't know what we're doing here for not standing up for children. Shame on you. Hidalgo's interactions with commissioners have grown increasingly tense as the court works to close the deficit, which was made worse when commissioners approved more than $100 million for law enforcement pay raises earlier this year. A final vote on the county's budget is expected September 18th. I'm Sarah Grunow, News 88.7.
And in sports, the Astros are back on the field this afternoon to battle the Toronto Blue Jays. They beat Toronto 3-2 last night after giving up the lead they had in the 8th inning, but Houston battled back to score the winning run in the top of the 9th inning, and they remain in first place for now. Right now, it's 88 degrees on the University of Houston campus. Slight chance of showers and thunderstorms this afternoon between 2 and 4 p.m. Clear skies tonight with a low in the mid-70s. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance with Snapshot, which monitors safe driving habits to determine a personalized rate at Progressive.com. Not available in California or from all agents. This is NPR.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Welcome back to the second hour of Hello Houston.
We're back. I'll tell you, YouTube is on fire today.
I think the internet is on fire today. Yeah, in general.
So.
It's just wild. But yes, what are some of those comments, Frank?
And I did want to mention, we're just seeing some very clear pictures of the suspected killer of Charlie Kirk.
Yes.
Mel Roch says, defending these people that are, quote, politicians and, quote, talking heads, it makes me sick. These talking heads have caused so much pain in this country. Their words have had deadly consequences.
And earlier in Hello Houston, the first hour, we have been discussing the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, who died yesterday after being shot while speaking on stage at an event at Utah Valley University. We opened up our phone lines, and we understand there is a lot to unpack, a lot to discuss, and that is what we do here on Hello Houston. Ernie, what else do we have coming up in the hour?
We're going to be talking a bit more about the environment, and we also have, depending on the time, we'll try and squeeze in our current obsessions. Those are the things that occupy your time, make you stay up a little too late at night, scrolling through on your phone. I will say, though, last night I was kind of over preoccupied with what happened with Charlie Kirk and the information as it comes in. And in today's day and age, it's funny to me because we live in such a world where now we kind of think of things like a television show, or there's going to be a resolution right away. You get to the end of the hour, you know who committed whatever. And to have to engage in something in real time and wait for information to come out. And I hope that what we don't do is jump to conclusions and make decisions and start jumping on any bit of rumor or gossip that's out there in social media, and take the time to let the process go through and find out who may have done this, why they did it, what the implication of it is. There's a lot more to a story than just a nice little tied up bow. There's complications in who the person is that actually was the victim of this crime, and you may have conflicted feelings about that. But I think we can all come together as a community, and if we can't, we should be able to, and understand violence of this sort is not acceptable in our community.
And we will continue to update everybody on this coverage. We understand the FBI has released images of the person of interest of the Charlie Kirk shooting, and this is a developing story, and as we get information, we'll try to update you all as well. Tributes have been paid from across the political spectrum, starting with President Donald Trump, who wrote on social media, "No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie." Former President Joe Biden called for an end to political violence after the fatal shooting of Kirk. He said, "There is no place in our country for this kind of violence. It must end now." And former President Biden posted that on X. Former President Barack Obama also weighed in on social media, saying, "We don't yet know what motivated the person who shot and killed Charlie Kirk, but this kind of despicable violence has no place in our democracy." Michelle and I will be praying for Charlie's family tonight. Governor Greg Abbott also released a statement on the shooting of the right-wing activist Charlie Kirk yesterday, calling it a senseless act of violence. What are your thoughts on the rise of political violence in America? You can call us or text us at 713-440-8870.
Other comments we've gotten on YouTube from here, there, all violence is senseless. Just wish that was the message versus the political aspect driving the conversation. My British computer guy says, "I disagree with most of what he preached, but feel for his family." And Cosmic Garcia says, "I think some of the left-leaning media are doing their best to cover the issue. They don't want to be accused of not giving it enough coverage because of who he was. It's a fine line and all."
Yeah, we had a caller earlier that was talking about how the coverage was being handled and what should be handled, and I think that's what that was in response to. It is a very difficult way to look at this story. It's hard because you may not agree with what someone said, but the same way that I feel that there are some leaders of religious organizations who may not espouse what you believe, if they were murdered, you would feel the compassion for a person should not be killed for their beliefs.
And
that's what we support.
And when we're looking at this specifically, gun violence and political violence are becoming regular occurrences in our country. And I think at the end of the day, we have to make changes.
Well, violence has become a regular occurrence in our life. I mean, I go into a store, a big box store, and I look around and make sure that things seem safe and look for where the exits are and kind of think to now this all happens in about 10 seconds, but I think, okay, if I hear something, where am I going to go and what am I going to do? And I've never, ever thought like that before, but I do now.
Same. And you know, Frank, especially if I'm with my kids and I'm at like a major event, that always goes through my mind. It could be a sporting event. It could be anywhere. If I'm with my children, I always am kind of looking around and I know that sounds odd, but I really do. And I don't obsess over it, but I do look and say, okay, I know where the exit is.
I think it's responsible. I was telling Kevin, I used to have a real fear of flying, right? Mm-hmm. And now it turns out that's the safest place you can be. I mean, really.
This guy, which is ironic because today is 9/11, and it's one of those things where, as we look in this country, we are holding so much space for so many different tragic things and events that have unfolded.
Yeah.
I want to go back a little bit to talking about being in public space and concern. I come from a place called Binghamton, New York, upstate New York. They have a new event they do every year called Luma Festival, where they project on the old, the turn of the century buildings we have in our town. The old century, not the most recent century. And they project these things. It's become this huge event. And this was the first year that I wasn't there, but I got to see videos of it. At the intersections about a block out from this festival that happens all during downtown, they had municipal trucks parked sideways on the streets all along to block if anybody were to run a car into the area. It's things they have to think about. It's when we have parades here in town.
New Year's Eve, New Orleans.
New Year's Eve, New Orleans.
That's right.
New Year's Eve, New York, what they do to protect
And
it.
we did receive a YouTube comment from Fritz Goldman who says, I knew Charlie when he was just getting started in Chicago, much like Rush Limbaugh. And you guys, it's the power of talk radio that makes it all happen. And I think it's one of those things where we're going to continue to look at this and we're going to be examining these types of situations. Again, you can join the conversation, 713-440-8870. You're always welcome to join the conversation on Hello Houston.
I'm going to do a little wrap on Fritz, then I'll move on to the next story, and that is it's the power of talk radio is the platform, but the true power of talk radio is each and every one of you sharing your opinions and your thoughts and giving us an opportunity to exchange ideas. And that is so needed in any civilization, any community, and we just have the advantage of electronic media to spread it out there. So please keep calling, sharing your points of view. They don't have to agree with ours. We just ask that you be respectful when you share them, and it gives us all a chance to learn and to understand each other better. And I think that's really what we need in a time when we all should be worried about healing and being a better community. Have differences of opinion. The three of us, we have differences of opinion all the time. But the point is, at the end of the day, we respect one another and we care about each other, and we all should do that in a community. Moving on, I'm going to give you a story we have here. Facing growing political pressures, Texas A&M University President Mark A. Walsh III announced Tuesday evening that a professor teaching a children's literature course at the center of a viral recording was fired, and that the university would conduct a full audit of its courses. The announcement came after a video circulated online Monday showing a student confronting a professor over LGBTQ-related content in class, sparking backlash from Republican lawmakers and calls for investigations. A response from the U.S. Department of Justice and a statement from the Texas A&M System Chancellor, pledging to discipline the professor. A university spokesperson on Tuesday confirmed that the professor was senior lecturer Melissa McCall. Here is an exchange from the viral recording.
I just have a question because I'm not entirely sure this is legal to be teaching. Because according to our president, there's only two genders, and he said that he would be freezing agencies' funding programs that promote gender ideology.
In his statement Tuesday, Welsh said changes were made over the summer to ensure that the content not aligned within reasonable expectations of curriculum would not be taught after issues with the course were raised to university officials. Welsh later learned Monday night another course was continuing to teach material inconsistent with the published course description, resulting in the teacher's removal. So what are your thoughts about the firing? 713-440-8870.
This is tough, right? Because everything is so nuanced nowadays, and we get clips of moments, but we don't really see the whole picture. And so it's very hard to make any type of decision of who was in the right, who was in the wrong when we look at these type of situations. That's, I would say, it's hard. These are nuanced situations.
Well, isn't a class at Texas A&M, doesn't the student know what they're getting into when they take the class? I mean, I did when I was in college.
Well, what would you think if you were taking a children's literature course?
Well, apparently a lot of people that maybe are trying to become psychologists or psychiatrists, they want to understand what it is out there that maybe children are learning and how they're learning it. I mean, I don't create curriculum. I don't create the courses, but obviously this was a professor at Texas A&M who felt like this was relevant to what she was teaching her students.
Right. Like I spoke to a UH journalism class, and there were quite a few students that were not journalist majors, but they had taken this class because they were interested in writing and learning. And so I think that there apparently for this class, there were quite a few students that were in other majors as well.
Nicole on YouTube says, quote, absolutely absurd that the professor was fired.
You know, we've talked about this a little bit around our office, too, and the whole idea, and I'm not saying it to espouse that this is the way it should be, but it's the way I've always understood that university wasn't just about the courses you took. It was about the life experience. It was about going and being exposed to things you might not have understood or you might not have been exposed to. It's an opportunity. You said it yesterday, Celeste. It's a time to try on new experiences, and not to say that because you talk about LGBTQ issues, you should go and try out that lifestyle. But it's understand you may have never heard about this. You may have not understood it. And it's a place, it's like, I think of it as a giant buffet. You can sample whatever flavors you want there to learn more about it. You don't have to go back to it. You don't have to say that's your favorite dish. But at least you've been exposed to it and you're like, oh, I know that exists and I know that exists. That was my understanding of what the whole university concept is, from student organizations through classes to the friendships you make to the people you're exposed to.
Well, when you start the whole sentence with, according to the President of the United States,
or the governor.
Or my father, whatever. I can tell you, my father only believed there were two genders. And that's the kind of person he was, and that's what he believed. But that to start that with anybody saying this is a fact, because we don't know that's a fact, and it's still being debated. And just yesterday, the Supreme Court took a case where a 14-year-old wanted to be in the bathroom with the gender he identified or she identified, and they said that's fine. They upheld a lower court ruling yesterday. So that all got kind of lost in the whole thing that we're talking about today. But it was the Supreme Court is sort of coming down finally on behalf of people who are transgender and their rights too.
Mel writes, more eloquently than I just said it, quote, I support the professor. College is a place to express ideas and debate, and the fact that our government is overstepping and stopping debate from happening should scare everyone.
That's my point.
Yeah, Mel summed it up much nicer and more quickly than we did.
Yeah, sorry to be verbose.
Celeste, I think I cut you off.
Well, I was going to say that, college is a time, there's a very small time in someone's life as a young adult, an early coming into adulthood that's formative, where you get this time to try on different things. And what I mean by try on things is be exposed to things. I mean, kind of like what Mel was saying, kind of like what Ernie was saying. And without major, risk. And so to take that away from students where they can talk about, have a safe place where they can talk about things that maybe perhaps they couldn't talk about from where they came from. And the opposite is there are people that have never been exposed to religion. They go to college and they might meet somebody and say, I really am interested in this. Mm-hmm. The opposite. There are people, I grew up in South Texas, with very very high population of Hispanic. So I went to my first year of college in North Carolina and I was exposed to a whole new world of culture. And it was beautiful. And I had a little bit of culture shock when I got there. And I met some of my friends that today I still talk to. And so to me, the beauty of college is a place for a young person to be able to talk to different people that are not like them and have a safe place to do that.
I mentioned earlier, it is a little ironic that Utah State University hosts this very controversial person, Charlie Kirk, and that's fine. You can have someone like that on your campus, but when a professor teaches what they feel is important to the classroom, they're fired.
And we do want to make a difference between what is done as an organization within a school, a university, as opposed to what is in the curriculum and in class. And they are two different things.
For now, but you wonder.
Art and Influence commented, I can remember when professors just taught. I'm pretty liberal and can see these teachers are overreaching. that comment there. And a thing that I have always believed in and will continue to believe in is there is no conversation we can't have. It's when we stop talking about things that the problems happen. As long as we're communicating and trying to understand different points of view, that does not mean Never doesn't mean you have to agree with the points of view, but I think it is beholden for all of us to understand why people believe what they believe so that we can better either challenge our own beliefs or reaffirm our own beliefs. That's what I find very important.
And again, you could join the conversation, 713-440-8870. All perspectives are welcome here on Hello Houston as long as they're respectful.
Yeah, Jim is on the line from West Houston. Welcome to Hello Houston, Jim.
Well, thank you. The problem is that we have an administration that's very backward thinking, and they're dealing with half the population in this country are not very smart, obviously, because they elected him. But what has happened? We have universities, colleges, high schools, elementary schools, and now this is a great fear, of teaching, that things aren't as what was described as normal to us when we were younger. And the truth is that people are not the same. People were not born the same way. And if someone wants to change their sex, I see nothing wrong with it. And yet, they make this like it's a horrible sin, and it's not. It's normal. I hate to tell you, it's normal, people, to do that. And it's what percent of the population do it? Like,
all right. Well, thank you, Jim.
Yeah, Jim's phone line was breaking up there a little bit at the end, but we thank you for calling. It's 713-440-8870.
YouTube comments. YouTube's just on fire today. Cosme Garcia, now college is a business. They don't want to upset their, quote, customers. Dark one, I can remember espousing the professor's point of view on certain topics because otherwise I would have gotten me a lower grade. Let's face it, college is political, leaning either way. Mm-hmm. Perhaps. Here's a text. Those students signed up for those classes under their own volition. If they only want to hear about things that align with their worldview, they should take different courses or attend different universities. It's utterly absurd the professor lost their job. Academia is under the threat of censorship every day.
Just a quick point here. When you do text us, we'd love for you to give us a name or something to call you by so that we know whose text we're reading. You have another text there, too.
Yeah, this is, I'll try to be quick. I feel like this conversation could have been done privately. I almost feel like the student was attacking the professor or trying to make a point. I feel that the student may have had a valid argument, but the course material was probably outlined. I know that when I signed up for classes, I didn't know every single book or every single article that I would be reading until it was assigned. The course material is usually a broad scope of what will be taught. At this point, the student probably also had the ability to drop the class if they didn't feel this was for them.
I also think, we have to take into account how this conversation came about and
why.
And in a college course, you're talking and perhaps the professor's lecturing and somebody asked a question, so again, we just get snippets of these types of interactions.
It was a children's literature course, so my guess is the professor said, and in some children's literature, they address LGBTQ stances. Mm-hmm. And someone said, wait a minute, why are we talking about LGBTQ anything? And that seems to have really gotten out of control. But Melissa McCall, she's been fired. I don't know if she is, willing to talk about it yet, but maybe we'll hear from her.
Yeah.
Yes, 713-440-8870. We do want to hear from you, so you can give us a call or send us a text. Again, 713-440-8870.
And usually at this time in the segments, I talk about what day this is and what day we're remembering today. But today is September 11th, and it's officially recognized in the United States as Patriot Day and the National Day of Service and Remembrance, honoring the nearly 3,000 victims of the 2001 terrorist attack and the first responders who saved lives. It's a day for Americans to engage in community service and volunteer work as we look to forwarding tributes towards the victims. So please keep that in mind and remember that as we move through our day.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we'll talk with Capital and Maine reporter Elena Bruess about the Trump administration easing pollution rules for coal plants and chemical facilities. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Federal funding for public media has been cut. In response, we're creating Houston Public Media's Resiliency Fund. Donations made toward the fund will directly counter the loss of the $2.2 million in federal funds that were cut annually and strengthen our station's foundation to provide our services into the future. Contributing to this fund is easy and quick and makes all the difference to our station. Help build the Resiliency Fund now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
I'm Jesse Thorne. You want some real, insightful conversations about where art comes from? Well, Bullseye has you covered, as long as you don't mind a little bit of ridiculousness.
Y'all was like really judging me though.
They sniffed it out. They sniffed out that I was weird.
I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna sit, just like in the movies.
Listen, learn, laugh. Bullseye from Maximum Fun and NPR.
Bullseye, Thursdays at 9 p.m. on News 88.7.
Houston Public Media, in partnership with Texas Southern University, brings to you The Vibe. R&B, hip-hop, and neo-soul. Music that resonates with all ages. The Vibe on 88.7 HD3 and on the Houston Public Media app.
Support comes from the Toyota Center, presenting OVO by Cirque du Soleil, with updated characters, staging, and high-flying acrobatics. OVO, playing October 2nd to 5th at Toyota Center. Tickets at toyotacenter.com.
Support comes from Pearland, Texas, a community with a variety of living options, from new construction, mature neighborhoods, and urban living, designed for any lifestyle. More at pearlandedc.com/inspiration. Pearland, inspiration lives here.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Rice University's Master of Interdisciplinary Studies, providing working adults with a flexible degree plan while engaging with the academic resources of Rice. Details at gls.rice.edu.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
There have been some major rollbacks in environmental oversight under the current Trump administration, and these changes could have some serious consequences for public health, especially in regions like ours, which are very heavily petrochemical. So we invited a reporter from Capital and Maine. The reporting's been revealing that dozens of coal plants and chemical facilities have been granted 2-year exemptions from pollution rules, meaning they're not as limited in their emissions of mercury and benzene and other toxic substances as they had been. At the same time, the administration is moving to eliminate the U.S. Chemical Safety Board. That's the agency responsible for investigating industrial accidents like refinery fires and chemical explosions, of which we have a lot in this region of the world. Joining us now to break it all down is Capital and Maine reporter Elena Bruess, who's been covering these developments closely. For one thing, welcome, by the way.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We're glad you're here. I know you know this, but China, India, and then the United States are the worst violators still of coal pollution.
Yeah.
So were we trying to rein that in, and now we're not going to rein it in?
Yeah, so we were. Yeah, so there's this rule called the MATS rule. It's the Mercury and Air Toxic Standards rule. And we've had this for a while. But last year, in 2024, when Biden was in office, he was going to strengthen this rule. So mercury is really toxic. We all kind of know this. And what happens when it's in these coal plants is it goes down and it can contaminate the water supply, can contaminate the air. And mercury is really bad for everybody, but it's really bad for children and it's really bad for elderly folks as well. So what the Biden administration was going to do was strengthen this rule so that it was going to protect even more lives in the area, and so that these coal plants wouldn't be producing as much.
Before we get into the nuts and bolts of the impact of all of this, I'm just curious to help me understand from the other point of view on all of this, why does it make sense to reduce these, to stall these, to change these regulations as opposed to enforce them more and evolve them more?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what the Trump administration and what coal plant companies are saying is that, okay, yeah, we get it. We need to strengthen our regulations, but we just need more time. We can't just do this right now. We don't have the equipment available to do this. We want more time. So please give us a year or two. And for this case, it's going to be 2 years. Give us more time so we can implement these stricter regulations. What's interesting is that, it was going to go into effect in 2027. So they were still going to have time, but now they're extending it to 2029. So it's that's sort of what they're saying. It's we just want more time, so they're just delaying it. But advocates who are really advocating for this regulation are like, okay, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. You already have time, and this is pertinent.
Nobody's saying it's not harmful. They're just saying, give us more time to get these regulations into control. Your reporting is implying, well, in that time you wait, harm happens, correct?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I do think that companies will like to say that the regulations that they had before Biden tried to add more to it could probably be the ones we have right now are pretty good. Why do we need to add more to them? I feel like that's also, they could have that kind of pushback.
So is there any reasoning besides we need more time to eliminating the U.S. Chemical Safety Board?
That is that's very different. So that's more that the Trump administration is deciding that is a useless organization, that is a useless agency, and that it no longer needs to exist. And so that he's saying, well, the other agencies do it. The EPA, OSHA does it instead.
And so, and just to give a refresher, what does the U.S. Chemical Safety Board do exactly so people understand what their role has played historically within their regulation?
So the Chemical Safety Board has been around for over 2 decades. And what it does is it's an independent agency that goes into communities and industry after an accident has happened. So we've had lots of accidents happen here in Houston. We have a massive petrochemical industry, and we could have an explosion or something that happens. They'll come in and they'll do an independent evaluation. They do not fine. They don't do any of the fines. They're just coming in and they put together this very large report that usually can take over a year to put together. And then they publish it publicly. And then the industry and the community will be able to read it. It's public information. And then oftentimes, more than 90% of the time, they will incorporate those changes that the Chemical Safety Board wants.
Though, other departments pick that work up as they talk about that instead of having this whole unit, as you said, parse it out to other organizations? Or do we lose something in that?
I think that would be a very difficult thing to do, to put into other organizations or other agencies. So the EPA and OSHA are already so overwhelmed, and the Trump administration is also proposing to cut both of those agencies by quite a lot of funding. So the fact that you're thinking that you can put an entire other agency into these agencies, it seems impossible, is what advocates are saying.
Is there anything that you're seeing from the Trump administration that's positive toward all of this? And now we're in silence.
Okay, so
I want to give everyone the benefit of the
doubt. Of course. I think it's part of the Trump administration's current move to just make government more efficient. So maybe what he is thinking, or what this administration is thinking, is why do we have this? Why is it taking up money when it seems like it's really similar to OSHA and it's really similar to the EPA?
Anything the state does to pick up where the federal guys are going to back out.
Yeah, so that's I feel like also they're like, oh, it'll be nice if the states are taking over this responsibility. But that's also a lot for the state to go in and do a year-long investigation of a chemical facility. Texas alone is dealing with so many different issues right now, like the floods in Caryville and things like that. And so for them to also have to handle an investigation that happens every once in a while, is a lot. So, yeah.
Let's bring it much closer to home. Talk about in Houston, Harris County. What are the reactions among like local government, environmental justice groups, the affected residents? What are we hearing locally about this? Because Frank started off talking about our region.
The Sierra Club, what do they say?
They are all very alarmed by this. So, but I would like to say that for the Chemical Safety Board, it isn't just who you're thinking, like the Sierra Club or environmentalists or advocates that it's people who are working in industry are not happy about this. They like the Chemical Safety Board because the Chemical Safety Board does not fine them. TCEQ, EPA, OSHA, they actually give out fines. So these chemical plants, they're like they welcome the Chemical Safety Board to come and make their lives easier so that they don't have those types of mistakes happen again in the future.
Has the Texas Water Board come out on this at all? I mean, I know they're huge. They're like 9,000 members, but they deal with mud districts, and I mean, there's a lot of members because there are a lot of people that are concerned about their neighborhood water. And what you're suggesting is that it could be poisoned.
Right. So that would be more work for them, I would assume. I mean, I guess this would actually mostly go for like the TCEQ would handle something like polluting the water in somebody's community. They would come out. The Water Development Board, like perhaps could look into it, but that's really just not what they would be focusing on as much as something like the TCEQ.
Now, Elena, we talked about, the pollution rules that would be and limiting emissions and how they've been granted 2-year exemptions. And you touched on mercury, but there's also benzene and other toxic substance. Talk to us about the other toxic substances that are basically concerning to not just advocates, but they should be concerning to a normal civilian.
Yeah, so those chemicals like benzene are cancerous. So, like when you go to the gas station and you have that sweet smell that you smell when you're putting in your car, that is the smell of benzene. It's like a really nice, like at least I think it smells good, but that is like
it's the smell of money.
I was like, it's great. But that is like that chemical smell, and that they use that kind of product when they do like they're building like plastic and things like that, like these plastic facilities. But whenever you build something, whenever you have one of these facilities, you're going to have emissions from those facilities. So things like that, like benzene, are going to be coming from them into the air. And the communities, which they call fence line communities because they're right up against the border of these plants, they are getting the brunt of it. And it causes all sorts of issues for those populations. I mean, cancer, respiratory issues, heart disease, brain issues, like it is numerous. So when we're talking about like restricting these issues, it's like to help the communities around them and the people who are working at the plants as well.
Let's talk a little dollars and cents here if you have these numbers. I'm just curious, by delaying following these guidelines, by offsetting them, what is the profit margin? How do these industries benefit financially? Is that what's ultimately at the base of this?
That's interesting because that is a big part of it. I think that they're saying, when they say we don't have the equipment to do this, they're also saying we don't want to spend the money to have the equipment to do this. I spoke with a member of the Sierra Club who used to work for the TCEQ for over 20 years, and he says that it's like, when he was going into these facilities and he was telling them, okay, you have to do these things, they're like, okay, well, like, is it in the budget? Like, are we going to be able to do this? But they're talking about toxins that are leaking out into the community. They have these leaks and things like that. And so they're dealing with like how, it's like cost cutting measures. And so, it's costly. And I will also say that for the mercury rule specifically, Trump is trying to completely end that. He doesn't want that Biden era regulation to go through at all. So even though they're also delaying it 2 years, he's also in the process of trying to eliminate that strengthened regulation.
Wow.
Elena Bruess is a reporter for Capital and Maine. Elena, thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. I appreciate it.
Coming up, we'll discuss our current obsessions, and we see yours coming through. Keep those coming. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Hello, I'm Josh Adams, General Manager of Houston Public Media. This station just lost $2.2 million in federal support annually. To keep our station strong, we've launched the Resiliency Fund, powered by community members just like you. Your support will help bridge the funding gap and ensure these programs remain free and accessible to everyone. If public media and this station matter to you, now is the time to act. Support the Resiliency Fund today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
At 9 here on News 88.7.
Can't get enough PBS programming? PBS Passport is an added member benefit that offers exclusive streaming access to many of your favorite programs on the PBS app. Whether you're an NPR listener, a PBS watcher, or both, your ongoing donations of at least $5 per month qualify for PBS Passport. Make your gift now to start watching at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Public health officials have to both contain disease and explain to people how they are being kept healthy and safe.
Sometimes we think of communication as kind of about a program. Communication is the program.
A former director of the CDC on caring for the public and individuals. That's next time on Think.
You can hear Think is coming up tonight at 10 o'clock. Support comes from Near Northwest Management District with new commercial construction, more than 350 acres of green space, parks, and sports complex. More information at nnmd.org. At the intersection of innovation. Support comes from Houston Chamber Choir, presenting a choral showcase of Mozart and Haydn, featuring Mozart's Requiem, led by new artistic director Betsy Cook-Weber with Houston Symphony members. September 6th, tickets at houstonchamberchoir.org/radio.
And now back to Hello Houston. To share your thoughts on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Throughout today's show, we have been discussing the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, who died yesterday after being shot while speaking on stage at an event in Utah Valley University. And before we get into our current obsessions, we have been receiving quite a few comments. And to read some of those comments, we look at Kate from Cyprus, says, gun violence affects everyone from the Kirk family to the students that saw his assassination. They are going to have the memories of that trauma for the rest of their lives. This violence hurts our society. Also, Wayne from North Houston said, my heart goes out to Kirk and his family. That rhetoric is not needed in politics, but shooting people is not politics. Also, Marilyn from Atascocita says, as far as I know, teaching that is restricted. Now we're going to actually go to the comment, one of the topics we were talking about as well.
Yeah, with the Texas A&M professor being fired.
Yes, and Marilyn from Atascocita said, as far as I know, teaching that is restricted. Not sure what the restriction is, but I read it is against the law. The article also mentioned they might fire the president of Texas A&M. Mm-hmm. So on Hello Houston, we've been covering a lot of the different headlines that we know are important to our communities, and we will continue to do that on Hello Houston.
I want to mention that Dragon455 wrote, it is so marvelous to listen to your program. Each of you brings something different to the conversation, but it is always with respect and with an effort to understand. Thanks. And I thank you, Dragon455, for getting that. The point is, we try to hear different points of view. We try to do it with respect, and we try to build... At the root of who we are, it's education, and we want you to better understand the world you live in today. You might not agree with all of it, but it's important we understand what's going on.
Yep. And different views and viewpoints and perspectives is what makes a community.
Yep. And these are going to continue to come our way. I mean, this is awful what we're talking about today. And the times we live in And what's going to happen a week from today, 2 weeks from today? It's just, sometimes it's overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, sometimes nice to relax with some of the books that we talk about on this show.
And we can also, and it's one of those things where whatever's happening out in our communities, we will keep you updated right here on News 88.7 and on Hello Houston. And right now during today's Hello Houston segment, it is Thursday and it's the end of the hour. And so we are going to talk about our current obsessions. That's that thing that takes up all of our thoughts right now. Clearly, we all feel the environment is heavy, but to lighten things up, let's start with our current obsessions.
You know what I'm going to start with, though? Alex Garza wrote a little earlier because we've been monitoring YouTube today. It's been very active over there. And Alex Garza wrote, I have to go. My current obsession is researching a new mobile carrier. I've been with AT&T and looking to see if I should keep it or move to another provider. Wish me luck. And the best part of that is the wish me luck because I just changed my carrier. Oh, my God. You get so confused with what's out there and the information. So, Alex, I do not envy you having to figure this out, but be curious to see where you land in all of that.
Do you like your new carrier?
No.
Okay.
But I like my bill.
I do want to read. I do want to read this text. We got somebody texted, or Richard texted us. Obsession. My 2 cats. They're obsessed.
Oh Lord.
So my current obsessed is a new segment.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think Alex is probably going to be obsessed with that for a while. And when you say a new mobile carrier, I don't know if they're talking about their mobile phone or their internet.
I'm assuming their phone.
Oh well. I'm not going to give anybody free ads.
AT&T? Are you Sprint?
My carrier, I won't say who it
T-Mobile?
is, but it starts with a T.
All right.
Got it. We also got some other current obsessions on our YouTube. My British computer guy says, my current obsession, caramel macchiato. That's my order. And Here There also says, my current and constant beverage obsession is matcha latte. I just got into matcha lattes, Here There, so I'm with you on that.
So what are these?
Matcha lattes is like a
coffee
plant. It's like a caffeine, but the point of it, it's the green iced matcha lattes. You can also get it warm from Japanese.
Oh.
It kind of has this umami taste to it. They are so good. But the different way the caffeine is secreted, I guess, I don't know if that's the right word, very scientific, is that it's supposed to be a slow release of caffeine.
Then you're
instead
not
of that,
using it
jolt.
right.
No, I am not.
I can tell you that. It's interesting you bring up flavors and such. You know me, I cannot wait for summer to be over. I am not a summer guy. I live for the fall. And that first whiff of pumpkin spice in the air or those fall flavors gets me so excited to walk into a Costco or a Walgreens or a Target or a Walmart and see the inflatable pumpkins in the Halloween costumes.
Ernie.
And I am there for it. I am so excited.
Preach, baby, preach.
Give me
that's an
my
obsession.
pumpkin spice. I was at a store and I got my flavor for my coffee. I always get those sugar-free bottles. I have my own pumps at home. I'm like a little coffee store. Oh, and I have got my pumpkin spice, but I have to hold off. I can't use it too soon because just like I won't play Christmas music until after Thanksgiving. It's a rule. You got to abide by it. I can't go into this until we're at least the beginning of October.
So I have this tradition where around this time when fall comes, I always buy a cinnamon broom from Trader Joe's.
Oh, my God. My friend Jeff does the same thing.
I buy, and my kids know that Mommy's going to buy a cinnamon broom. And
Explain
I buy
what a
them.
cinnamon broom is for people who do not know.
It literally is a little broom.
Like a little witch's broom.
A little witch's broom that smells like cinnamon.
Yeah.
And it smells, makes your whole house smell.
Like cinnamon.
It's the season.
And I said how, I grew up in South Texas where we don't really get fall. It's always hot.
True.
And so when I went to school in North Carolina, you have seasons, absolutely beautiful. I remember walking into a grocery store and there was this scent that I just could not figure out. And I asked the cashier, what am I smelling? And she said, we sell cinnamon brooms. So I put that in my little dorm room when I was in college, and I still do it today.
Okay, now, Celeste, I'm going to upset you greatly because it upset me when I learned it yesterday.
Oh, don't tell me.
Somebody on this panel who's with us every day is not a fan of those flavors.
Well, I like cinnamon. I put cinnamon on my oatmeal.
All right, but what about
pumpkin? Not a fan.
Oh.
I mean, I like pumpkin pie, but all these pumpkin cookies and pumpkin lattes and pumpkin this and pumpkin that.
I'm
not talking to you till December.
You've got kind of a pumpkin thing going.
I've got a little fall pumpkin.
Got a
As long as you don't have a pumpkin figure.
I don't ever talk about things like that.
Okay, Frank, what are you obsessed with?
Well, we have some other listeners here.
Oh, okay.
Nicole L. says that her current obsession is the nice weather we had this week. So I'm going to take credit for that.
Same, Nicole.
And then Sabrina Carpenter's new album, which is called Man's Best Friend,
So
debuted
good.
at #1.
So good.
Ooh.
Sabrina Carpenter's new album. I'm digging it. Yes. What else? What else we
Denise
got?
Ehrlich. We got to go out sometime, Denise. My obsession is wine. Imagine that.
Imagine.
I went to a great fundraiser for the Rose last night at the Nice Winery. We've had the Nice Wine guys on before. Yeah. It raises money for breast cancer, and it was sort of a sip and nosh and drink some really spectacular wine. Yeah. But it was really good. But they have a whole rosé. Pink is breast cancer. And I think next month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And so she said, well, if you are a breast cancer survivor, raise your hand. And I didn't hear the breast cancer part, and I raised my hand because of prostate cancer. All these people started saying, well, I didn't know you had breast cancer.
Point of reference, men can get breast cancer.
That was
true.
the point, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I am going to out Dan right now.
Your husband.
My husband. His current obsession, like many others, I've received a couple of texts, is Alien Earth. So
I haven't gotten into it.
So the movie Alien,
whole series of movies.
And now there's So I've never seen Alien.
Of course you haven't. It's a movie.
And a lot of people say that it's
so this
really
is
good.
a spin-off in the same universe. It's a TV series. I don't know if we call them. It's a streaming series. That's, I guess, what we call it nowadays. A lot of people are obsessed with that. I've got another. Oh, what did you see, Celeste? Before I get to my other
Here,
obsession.
there says, oh my, OMG, I now keep the broom and add my own oils.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I never thought of that.
Okay.
713-440-8870. We've got time. Call us.
Share your obsessions.
Jamie Wagner, obsessed with mahjong. That's a huge thing these
Love
days.
it.
I used to be.
Love it.
Didn't play it for the longest time. Then went back to it, and I was terrible at it. And it's really hard now. And I don't know what happened to me that I can't do it anymore. I used to be really good. All right, my other current obsession, as it gets toward fall. We're talking fallish. Halloween. Love Halloween. High holy day for me. I always
learning a lot today.
I do a movie screening, an outdoor movie screening where we watch a scary film. Yes. Well, no, you went to the fun film. You went and saw Can't Stop the Music for my birthday, but we also do a scary movie around Halloween. And I have become obsessed with a movie that I did not realize was 100 years old this year.
Which one?
Phantom of the Opera, the original silent Lon Chaney film, is 100 years old this year. And then in researching it, because of course I became obsessed, it turns out back in the day that they filmed the film and they wanted to make a copy of it. And what they would do is they would film it with two cameras next to each other. And they would have two prints of the film. They found the two prints and they've been able to combine them now to make a 3D version of the original 100-year-old. So by this mistake, they're able to, and so someone's been raising money for the last 10 years or so, and there's clips of it online. There's a really cheap version of it out there that was a 3D, mechanically made 3D version of it. Because, for a 3D film, you have to have two perspectives that lay on top of each other, and you put the glasses on so you see them.
You know what movie I really want to see is
totally uninterested in film.
You know what I really want to see?
You lost me like 10 minutes ago.
I'm obsessed with Benson Boone, and we're going to see him next week.
Oh,
He's
really?
going to be in concert at the
Where?
Toyota Center. And since he covered Adele, I don't know if you heard him.
I've seen the video. I haven't watched it yet.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
He's amazing covering Adele.
I don't care how he sings. I'm fascinated with how he always leaps off his piano or organ or whatever and does a flip in the air and land. One of these days, he's not going to land well.
Don't say that.
Okay, well, I didn't get to finish and tell you what movie I'm obsessed with, so I'll tell you all now. The new Frankenstein movie.
It hasn't come out yet, of course.
It has not come out yet.
Plays into my whole world.
Jacob Elordi.
Yes. I really want to go see it.
They say this is his movie star role. This will solidify him as a movie star.
Which is interesting because you tend to think of him as like a matinee idol looking kind of movie star. And in this role, he is going to be the monster and is going to be all layered up.
But I love
stuff.
seeing the range, that type of range.
Yeah.
On
We have a call.
Hey.
It's Vivian from the Heights who's obsessed with something. Vivian, what's
Hi,
up?
Vivian.
Okay, well, Mr. Minnis, the first time I met you, you were doing a follow-up show when they were doing the series Downton Abbey.
Oh, yes.
Coming out today, I think, or tomorrow, and I'm hoping you're going to do something else like that.
Vivian, I am so happy you called. Yes, I like you, am slightly obsessed with Downton Abbey. We had it here on TV 8. We ran all 6 seasons of the show, and for the last 4 seasons of the show, we produced an after show called Manner of Speaking, where every week after Downton Abbey, we would talk about what we had just seen. Since then, 2 movies came out, and the third, you can see some screenings today, but the official release date is tomorrow, and the third and final in the existence of Downton Abbey, so they say, is going to be released tomorrow. So on this very show, if you were a fan of Manner of Speaking or watched Downton Abbey on Houston Public Media or one of 132 other stations across the country, we did a show called Manner of Speaking, and the cast of Manner of Speaking is going to join us here on Hello Houston to chat a little and give us some feelings about the world of Downton Abbey. I hope you will be listening, Vivian.
Now, you've already seen a sneak preview?
I haven't. I'm not saying anything till tomorrow's show.
Did you like it? Should we all go?
I'm not saying anything until tomorrow's show.
I do want to say this. Jamie Wagner's obsession, I know we talked about it earlier, is Mahjong. Jamie, I'll totally play Mahjong. I love it. I love it. Where are we playing, Jamie?
Nicole, she saw The Roses. I loved War of the Roses, the movie earlier on that was with Kathleen Turner, and who else was in it, and Danny DeVito when they did The Roses.
Was it Michael Douglas?
Yes, this is the remake of it, and it's in theaters right now, and Nicole loves Olivia Colman, who stars in it.
Someone's obsessed with pumpkin cheesecake ice cream from Target, but like Ernie, I wait till October to start indulging in it. That's from Lupe in South Houston.
That's important. You've got to have these times, because if you join it too soon, by the time you get to the holiday, you're worn out. I love Christmas. I especially love the Cher Christmas album, but not until the day after Thanksgiving.
Well, I was going to ask you as a question, but I feel like it's a can of worms. So you'll just have to wait till next week's Current Obsessions to hear what I want to know about some of these traditions.
Okay.
And that wraps up our Current Obsessions. Thank you so much for sending yours. We've had a lot of fun during this segment, during a very hard time within our country. You can email us at talk@hellohouston.org. As always, you can send us a text at 713-448-8870. That brings us to the end of our show. We want to thank you for listening, chatting, texting, YouTubing to Hello Houston. We'll be back tomorrow with more conversations. This is News 88.7.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media.
Support comes from Gen Pro, a Houston-based home generator service providing power to homes during unexpected outages, helping with connectivity and productivity. More information is available at genpro.net.